Hey, you know how musicians often talk about how you should never play for free or for exposure, and exposure won't pay the rent and things like that? Well, I wanted to share a little story about how we ended up getting a $50,000 sponsorship every year by doing some stuff for free for exposure. So let me tell you that story right after a sip of water. Cheers. This is going to be a very casual blog. You can picture us just hanging out Friday night in the bar, me telling you a story. You know how a lot of musicians, they'll just say some blanket statements like that, like you'll hear all sorts of things. And one example would be never play for free, right? And so there's some truth in that, but it's not like a blanket statement that's true for all people in all situations. And so I want to tell you a story about how this definitely was not the attitude I went with. You may disagree. Hear me out and you can decide. One of the things I wanted to do with my music school was to not just like hoard all the money for myself, but really wanted to grow an awesome team, give them cool jobs, and I was really challenged that there were a lot of kids that couldn't afford lessons. Inflation goes up, so lessons get more expensive. The reality is a lot of people just can't afford it. There's not funding for everyone to be able to afford it. So we wanted to start doing some stuff for free. And so we took a portion of our profits and started giving back to provide free lessons and sort of mentoring to these kids who have come from tougher situations. And so we did this for years out of our own pocket. And so I would rally a bunch of senior students and we would teach kids, and we would help select those kids from local schools, or other parents and families and students would recognise a kid in their neighbourhood that needed help, and all these sorts of places. We just, it's not hard to find needs, right? Students would start coming to us, and then what happened was we'd kind of built this thing. It started to get some recognition. We started, sharing about it on social media. We got featured in the newspaper. We're doing all this stuff for free. It was literally costing us money. And then over time, this sort of developed. It wasn't huge, but it was, like a known thing that we did. We developed this reputation. And then our local council, they commissioned this report, and it was all about youth work. And they wanted to know from the people running the report, where was all the best youth work happening in the city? And they said, we don't want to hear about schools, because we know that, kids go to school. And they also said, kind of a cheeky one, take it as you will, they said we don't want to know about any religious organisations, because we don't want to be investing in funding into those. And I thought, hey, that's interesting, whatever your opinion is, fine. So when they ruled out schools, and they ruled out churches and religious groups, they said then look for all the next largest things. And so I don't even know what size our music school was at that stage. We would have at least passed 1,000 back then. But they commissioned this report, and it turned out that in our larger area, the number one provider of youth work and engagement of young people was our music school. And so this got featured in this report. And now I had approached the council many times saying, hey, we're doing this cool stuff. Would you consider supporting us? Maybe $5,000, $10,000, or whatever it is. And nothing. I just sort of got a pat on the back. We love your work. That's cool. But now they had this report which showed that we were doing all this incredible work, and we were the leading group in terms of numbers. Not to say we're the best group. There's plenty of people doing much deeper level of support, etc., through music. We're just hanging out with these kids, teaching them instruments, putting them in bands, having fun. A lot of the stuff that you probably want to do or are already doing. And so been doing all that for free, for exposure, for just for free, nothing, not really wanting anything in return. And so then this council had this funding, and they decided through a bit more of reporting and investigating what we do, that they were going to support us. And I think the first year it was either $40,000 or $50,000. I think it was $50,000. We got multiple grants from that, because then we were able to take that support and then take that to some other high, what I'm trying to say, like generous giving other organisations. And because we had the council, which was kind of prestigious, then the Department of Internal Affairs, they're the people that manage the lottery money. So you want to investigate, where's the lottery money come in for your city, your country, and who disperses that? Where can I apply? So we figured that out. They said, the council's supporting you. Oh, great. Well, we'll support you too. So one of them gave us 40, one of them gave us 50. Imagine that. There's 90 grand a year for us to spend. Now we can actually pay everyone that was doing this work and scale the work up and do all sorts of cool things. And eventually over time, we were able to fundraise over $700,000. Now, that never would have happened if I had listened to those musicians who have this real, in-the-box thinking, who just say, never play or never teach for exposure. So, my opinion, that is a crock of BS. Don't listen to that. Because if you start being generous, if someone down the road has some money to spend on arts, youth development, music, you are going to be the person that they think of. You're going to be the person that community members talk about and say, oh, you should support this organisation. And when I talk about raising over $700,000, the money came from some crazy places. Like, there were literally people who passed away and said, hey, we want to give a portion of the money in our will to this, music school, or to arts and entertainment. And their board or the trustees had to decide where to give it. So they asked the community. And because we've done all this work for free, people say you should give it to them. We had multiple times people passed away or downsized their houses and offered to give us grand pianos, all sorts of things. We had to turn those down, unfortunately. But that's just a classic example of how you do a whole bunch of stuff for free with good intentions. Over time, it does get out there. People talk. You do have to leverage it, do some smart things, but it's definitely not a blanket rule that you should never teach or never gig, never play, never coach for free. So there we go. There's a story, and I hope you'll take from it what you need to. And I encourage you that if you really want to take your teaching business to the next level, you want to think about how you can build in some sort of social enterprise aspect. That's where you're taking a little bit of the profits, even if it's 2%, 5% or something, and you're putting it towards something that really does make a difference in someone's life. And not just that, but it inspires all the other people who learn with you. So the students, the parents, even local council, other supporters, organisations, etc. Because there is honestly so much money out there. 700 grand sounds like a lot, but I had one of my mentors, a great friend called Brooke. He built an organisation, youth work across our country. They had multiple locations. They were raising like $4 million a year. Insane amount of money. So, and being able to give away and do all these amazing things. So there is money out there. If you want to know more about how to do this, in our Build a Music School library, I've filmed a whole section about how we started small and how we built up to getting all these funds. And heaps of people in our Build a Music School program we call the BAM Squad have actually done that. They're not at the 700k level yet, but they are getting funds. They are getting support, checks, $5,000 here, $2,000, $500, all sorts. And they're able to just grow their vision, help more people, and eventually you can actually just get paid to do all the cool free stuff that you want to do. So you're not even having to pay for it or give it away for free. You're doing that because you put in the work earlier on where you didn't listen to people who told you that you should never give away $1. So there we go. There's Friday night drinks for you. Hope you enjoyed it, and let me know. What are you going to support? Who are you going to help? Is it going to be kids that can't afford lessons? Is it going to be maybe disabled people, running a program for them? Maybe it's disadvantaged groups that you just want to support and care about. Maybe it's even fundraising for a different group that's not even related to music. Maybe you just love dogs and you just want to fundraise for the local animal shelter. Anything goes. People get behind a vision, and if you have a great vision, the provision, which comes from the people, whether it's volunteer hours, the money, the provision will follow the vision. So think big, create something, go change the world. You're awesome. See you in the next video.